Good evening. Dan Fitzpatrick here at stockmarketmentor.com. And I want to look at Atlassian today. Now, this stock has had a hell of a beating here over the last year or so, year and a half. I mean, if you want to call losing 80% of your value a hell of a beating, I do. But I'm looking at this now, and it's pretty obvious to me that the stock peaked on the downside. In other words, hit the low right back here on the 10th of April, right? And since that time, so it started to move up. But this is what I think is important. On this day here, look at the volume. This traded on massive volume, and it only closed from the prior day. It only closed down like 2.6%, which in the eternal scope of things is not that big a deal. But it traded down on this huge, huge, huge volume skyscraper. And then the very next day, it closed higher than these prior 2 days. Actually, the highest close, and who's counting, clear back into March. Okay, fine. I don't really care about the time period here. What I care about is the fact that this was kind of a classic reversal where you get a big move higher, then a little zag lower, and then right back up to new highs. Okay, now what does this have to do with this? I'll tell you what. This indicates to me like the end of the selling, definitely the end of the selling. And now we're just looking at, I'll do it this way. We're just looking at accumulation here. Right in this range here, this is accumulation. I can even kind of tighten it up for you a little bit. Right in this range is where this stock has been trading. Average volume, a little bit less than average volume, but there's not been much happening with this stock. Just not that much happening until today. Notice earnings today. So this was a volatility squeeze just waiting to blast off. It really wasn't my kind of trade. First of all, because I didn't see it. But second of all, I really wouldn't have been seeing it because it's so far below the 200-day moving average. And so that's kind of it's not my magical trick. Though I can trade it, but it's just not what I look to do. So I totally missed this. So the reason I'm pointing this out to you now is because I don't really think this trade is done on this kind of volume after this weakness here. This is institutions still picking up this stock, and institutions don't day trade. It's up 20%. It's up 20% in a day. Institutions that are buying this stock, and it's almost 9 million shares traded, trust me, they're buying. They're now at a point where they don't care if you know. They don't care. They've got a lot of stock down here. They're buying it all down here. Finally, the supply draws up at 75, dries up at 75, and they're going, who gives a rip? I got to buy some stock. And so they're buying it now. Again, they don't day trade. So my suggestion is, first, if you really want the Momo, if the stock trades above today's intraday high, which was 87.32. I'll do it this way. By the way, we're going to be trading this tomorrow. Those of you that are in on my 59-minute tier class. Okay, so if the stock trades above 87.32, I think it's a stock that you want to buy. I think this will work for you really well. If it instead pulls back a little bit, don't ignore it. Watch it. Because if the stock pulls back, my bet is you're going to find some buyers somewhere in this range. Stocks that break out like this on such huge volume tend to not fail. It's just not going to do this. And so I think this is a trade that can work for you. I hope it is. And if this kind of stuff works for you, do me a favor. Let me know. You can email me at, let me get my video here. You can email me at dan@stockmarketmentor.com. Also, you can, if you want, well, you can't do it tomorrow. I do these 2-day sessions now where I trade with people live in the morning, opening rotation 2 days in a row so that we can teach, learn, and then make money. So tomorrow's the making money part of it, but watch your email because we will be doing more of these. I'm actually enjoying doing them only, except I got to get up really early in the morning because I'm on the left coast. So if you want to join me in the next one, definitely check the website. And you're going to need to get the 59-minute trader. And guess what? I'll actually be creating a special for that on the next one. So definitely check that out. That's all I got for you. I'll see you next time.